selling in the corona pandemic. It's July 29th, and you can see behind me this beautiful Zoom backdrop is coming from a house that is actually closing tomorrow. And we have an interesting phenomena. It's not just people coming to Southern Oregon from other places like LA or New York or Texas. We actually have locals moving around, and locals, like the people that are buying this undisclosed location. They're getting an acre, a really big house, beautiful, beautiful setting, and they're taking their job with them. And they're leaving the Ashland Medford area because the taxes are high, the cost of living is high, and they're moving to Klamath County. So there's a very interesting shift happening where everybody, whether you're renter or homeowner, is looking at their life, looking at their dwelling, and trying to decide what to do next. We have a lot of group purchases. Group purchase meaning that more than one adult is coming together to live together and do a purchase together. We have the Gen X and the millennials. We have the grandmas and the Gen Xers. We've got everybody in between, because everybody wants to feel safe and have a little bit more space. So I'm here to talk about what it's like to buy and sell during this time, because it's actually an amazing opportunity, especially if you're selling your house. So here we are at the end of July in Southern Oregon, and we still don't have enough houses to sell. And what's happened is that the people that are on the market are getting really good offers. They're getting really strong buyers. They're only getting showings from people that are qualified, health checked, and no open houses. You know, a lot of people were not doing a lot of open houses right now in person. If you see a few, you got to stop and think, like, do you want to do that? You don't really need to do that. You can get a private appointment. I think it's probably better, but it's up to each individual. However, if you do want to put your house on the market, it can be done very quickly. You'll have a very responsive buyer base. It'll happen fast. And the buyer base is so responsive that you can actually have your buyer in contract waiting weeks and weeks for you to find a house. So the house behind me that is closing tomorrow, that person got a full price, all cash offer, and their buyer agreed to wait indefinitely. So that is a little unusual, but I have two other properties that I listed that went into contract pretty quickly. And one buyer agreed to wait 90 days, and the seller found a house in 3 weeks. The other buyer agreed to wait up to 180 days, and they found a house in 30 days. So it's very, very doable when you're in this kind of a market. And you're thinking of selling your house. I don't want you to be afraid because you don't have a place to go. You can get into contract. You can put these contingencies in there, and you just pick the buyer that plays along with that. And it's not a bad deal for the buyer because they don't lose anything. They may have to put their earnest money up, but they don't have to do their inspections ahead of time. Well, and actually, if you're buying one of my listings, it's already been inspected, so you don't even have to do that, right? So there you go. Anyway, just as things to keep in mind. And also, if you're worried about losing your job and having to sell your home, I want to talk to you because a lot of people have more equity than they realize. But also, we don't know if you really have to sell. You know, some people's jobs will be coming back. Some people can kind of side shift into another industry. So let us help. Let us talk to you before it becomes an emergency. But if you're lying awake at night, worried about that, then give me a call, give me a text. Let's go through what all the options are so that you have a plan just in case the worst happens. But I'm telling you, this is not 2007 again. This is not 2009 again. We have, I think 90% of the United States has equity in their home now. That was not the case during the big crash. This is more like a natural disaster event. We had a great economy. It's almost like if you have an earthquake or a tsunami or a flood or something like that, this coronavirus is an event, and the event is going to cycle through the housing market, and there will be ramifications, but then then it will unwind itself. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be back to normal because I personally do not believe it will. And I tell you, I talk to a lot of parents, I talk to a lot of police, I talk to a lot of sheriff, a lot of teachers, a lot of emergency workers, a lot of hospital workers, a lot of parents. I just talk to a lot of people, and I just don't know that we're going to go back to a lot of the public events. I don't know if we're going to go back to school. I know they're trying to open the schools. And you're asking yourself, why are we talking about this on a real estate show? Because it all affects real estate. This is where you may need to look at having a little bit more space in your house because you're not going back to your office. You may choose not to. Your boss may not want you to go back. You may need a room for homeschooling, or you're going to have some of the neighbor kids over and you're going to do some kind of controlled group classes. There's an awful lot of people talking about doing that. So all of this will affect the real estate market. But again, if you're worried about your job or your business failing, then let's please talk and let's find out what the situation actually is, before we go too far into panic mode. And if there is really a crisis brewing, then boy, let's get in front of it. Let's get in front of it and have an orderly plan so that we're not waiting to the last minute and either getting caught by surprise or having it be much, much more of a hardship. So keep my number 541-301-7980. Text me, call me, and let's try to sort out what your options are. So to wrap up what's going on in the valley, the Rogue Valley, I just wanted to point out some stats. So last week, Jackson County listed 127 new homes. Last week, Jackson County went into contract on 171 houses. So listed 127, went into contract on 171, closed 114. So that's going the wrong direction, people. I do want to throw in a little tangent though, because we always watch the back on market and the canceled. So Jackson County may have listed 127 houses, new ones, but 30 houses went back on the market just last week in Jackson County, and 15 went off the market because they just gave up. So it's interesting. You got to add those numbers together because it gives you a truer picture of the market. So we do have a lot of people going into escrow and then changing their mind. And then in Josephine County, we listed 89 properties. In Josephine County last week, we went under contract in 65 houses, and then we closed 29 and 11 went back on market. So Josephine County has a more normal feeling, at least as of last week. And then in Klamath County we listed 74 new properties in Klamath County last week. We went under contract in 62 houses. We closed 37 houses in Klamath County last week, and we had 19 go back on market. So that is a very interesting ratio, because to have 74 new listings and 19 back on market, that puts us close to 100. And Klamath had 62 go under contract and 37 close. So we're watching week by week. Micro trends are important. They're also interesting, but they're important because if we can be aware of the micro trends, we can start to see the very beginning of a full-blown change in direction, or a full-blown the market committing to another direction. So here we are, the end of July. We're looking for a lot more listings to sell. It's actually a great time to sell. The people that are on the market looking for houses are very serious. They're very well vetted, and they make their decisions quickly. I just don't know that you're going to find this opportunity again where both the seller and the buyer can have a good, clean, quick experience. We just, usually it's one side or the other. So if you're thinking about selling, or you've been afraid to put your house on the market because you don't want to be homeless, don't worry about that. Let's talk about the different strategies so that you get where you want to go with you and your family, and everything will be okay. We just have to do it differently than we used to, but it's all going to be fine. So I'm Alice Lema, broker John L. Scott. My number is 541-301-7980. And you can reach me by email, alicelema@alicelema.com. But I really love people calling and texting, and we'll just do everything we can to help you out. So in the meantime, have a beautiful week. Stay out of the sun because it's very, very hot, or at least get your sunscreen. And we will have another one of these live broadcasts in a couple days. Till then, make it a beautiful day. Bye now.